Hello everyone, how are you? Thank you so much for joining me today. It's Donna here and I'm back with another spooky project. So in my head I was thinking of how could I make a pocket for a journal a little bit more interesting, and I've come up with this little project here. So this is actually a pop-up pocket, I think I will call it. So a pop-up, can't say it, a pop-up pocket. This is the Autumnal Grunge journal from last year. But I was thinking of having a pocket on a journal page. So we would have something, you know, in there. But then it opens up and is actually a pop-up. And we have a little pop-up illustration inside our pocket, just for something interactive inside our journals. This is a smaller journal, so on a larger, let's pop it onto here. Mine would fit like that. So you can make these any size you want to fit whatever journal you want to. The one we're going to do today is slightly bigger, and also because this is my prototype, I probably will go about the next one in a slightly different way. So yeah, so it's just something a little bit different, a pop-up, and obviously it doesn't have to be used as a pocket. It can be just used as a booklet, something as a standalone, a card, a gift card pocket, something like that. Can be adapted in all different ways. I think the best place to start would be to show you how to actually make the pop-up mechanisms. There's two different ways. I've done one way in here. I'm going to do the other way in the next one we do. If you already know how to do the pop-ups or you're not interested in watching them, feel free to skip to the next chapter. But if not, let's go ahead and have a look at how we can create the actual pop-up mechanism for our pocket. So method number one is we have our outside of our card, and then we have an inner bit, and we create a step. Okay, and then our image or whatever it is we want to put on the front goes there, and that creates our pop-up. It just closes like this, and then it opens back up with it like that. Okay, that's the one we're going to do today. That's really, really easy to do. Now this one uses a different mechanism, and I hope you can see, but I've actually got a box on here. And I've created a 3D box, and then the image is stuck on the front of the box. And then there's also a smaller box where I've stuck the label. I'm hoping that you can see. I'm trying to look in the camera. It doesn't look like it's unfocused, but sometimes it does go that way. I'll show you now how to go about doing that box. So I have a scrap here with an illustration on. I've also got some scrap paper. So what you want to do is get your image and just put it on your piece of paper, and you want your box to be shorter than your image. Obviously you don't want it hanging out the side. So what you would need to do is put a line where you want to cut. So we're going to cut down here. So you'll see it's just shorter than the image. The length, leave long for now. It's better to have it longer than it is shorter. And you need to pop your piece of paper or your card, whatever it is you're using, onto your scoreboard this way, long ways, okay? So that is the width of your image, just short of. And the length here is what we're going to use to create the box. So turn it in the opposite way. And then all you want to do is make 5 marks. So it depends how tall your image is. So you could do 1/4 of an inch or 1/2 inch. I'm going to do 1/2 inch. So I'm going to do 1. Now I'm using copy paper, so it's a bit tricky, it keeps moving, but you'll hopefully have something a bit sturdier. So I'm going to do 1/2 inch, 1, 1.5, 2. So that gives us our 1, 2, 3, 4 sides of the box. We need one at 2.5. We need one more mark, so you need to be one up from the number of sides you want. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections. On this 5th score line, just chop it off, so that gives you your right length then. And then you just need to fold along those score lines. Remembering mine's very rough and ready, hand cut. You know, just make sure you've done yours straight. But you score along all those, and then you fold it up into your box. And this is where that last section comes in handy, because it gives you an extra panel to stick it all down together with. Okay, so then you just need some glue on this last one, and you can bring this one in and stick it together. And that's what makes your box. And then because we already worked out the width, oops, that way, wasn't it? We have a box that doesn't show either side of the image. So to stick your box in, you will have a piece of card that you're working with. And what you want to do is stick the bottom right up to the edge here. So let's do that. So the bottom is this one. So let's put some glue there. You can push it down and get it right up to that fold line. And just middle it. Unless you don't want it middling, you might want it either side, but just kind of get it where you want it and push it down, okay? Then this one, which is the back, needs to be stuck to the back of your card. So you can just put some glue here. Fold this down. And when you lift it, you have the box that's stuck and pops up with the outside. So what we've essentially done is made 2 steps, but just done in slightly different ways. This one is less bulky because it's obviously only using 2 sides here and 1 piece of paper, whereas this one we've obviously folded round, so you do get slightly more bulk. It just depends what you want to go for. I think the best thing to do is a combination of them both. So to start with this, and then if you're adding anything else on, like this, then do the box at the front. So I hope those instructions have been clear. Any trouble, just leave me a message. I'll be happy to explain it again. But now let's move on to making the project. For the outside of my pocket, I just used a 6x4 piece of paper. The reason being is because it was easy. They were in a pre-cut pack, and the weight is nice. It's not copy paper, it's a thin card, but it's just a nice thickness to fold without getting too bulky and without having any cracking here at the spine. With this one being my prototype, I worked directly onto the cover. This time I'm not going to, because although I do like the texture it's given, I do find it's hindered the mechanism a little bit. I feel like it is a little bit stiff. It seems to have glued itself somewhat there. And it still works, it's fine. But I think for the next one, any mixed media or anything that I do to it, it's going to be done on a separate piece of paper and stuck down then onto the front cover. So I started with my 6x4 and it was just folded in half. I decided on mine because mine was white and I didn't want to use any mixed media on it. that I was going to cover it. Now, I have this paper that I found, it was secondhand, a pack of 10 for £1, and I haven't really known what to do with it, but I thought it worked perfect for this project. So I covered the front and back. Obviously, if you're putting it on as a pocket, you might not want to cover the back. And on the inside, I have covered it with some stenciled papers. Now, I have a video on this. It's an older video. I will link it in the description below. And you might be able to see that what I actually did is 2 separate sections, because I didn't want the paper going over the fold here. So I just measured it and cut 2 separate panels. And around the outside, where there was a tiny bit of white, I got my ink cube and I just went straight to paper. So I did all the corners and down the middle in black. It was black soot. So the bit that you're going to put on the inside can be as big as you want. I really liked this paper, so I didn't want to cover it. So I've made mine quite small. It's just going to sit there in the middle. And we're going to do this type of mechanism. This is the image that we're going to be using today. So we're going to pretend that this is the inside of my cover. And we're going to get our image. And like we did when we did the box, we're going to look at the width of our image. And I'm going to make a couple of marks there. Just going to fold it that way so I can see them. And then with my scissors, I'm going to cut down, I don't know, 1/4 inch from the fold line where those marks are. Okay, which leaves us with this. And now at this bit, it gets a tiny bit fiddly, but just kind of stick with it. What you want to do is push that in and push these out. So that will fold in and that will fold out. So it leaves this. So I'll show you again. You've got your 2 slits. This needs to come in to make a step. And this fold needs to go out, and you'll end up with that. Give it a good burnish. And when you open it, there's your step, and your image will be glued here. Okay, it will close with the book and it will open back up again with the step. So that's exactly what I've done here. Made my little step. Okay, now in terms of your image, you just need to make sure that it's not too big. So what you need to do is get this piece, butt it right up into your crease there. Then get your image and butt it right up to the bottom of that step, because that is where your image will sit once this is closed, if that makes sense. And if you've got anything overhanging, chop it down. Okay, I've already done mine. So I'll show that again. So get your piece of paper, stick it right up to your fold, get your image, stick it right up against this and bottom of this step, so butt it right up, and that will give you how far down it's going to sit once it's all closed. And just check there's nothing hanging out. If there is, just put a little mark on it and chop it down. So once you've got your front and you've got your bit on the inside, it's up to you, entirely up to you then, what you want to do to decorate it. You might be able to see some of the shine. I actually used a stamp and I embossed on my paper. And I think I'm going to do something similar on here, just to give it that kind of mystical, magical feel, and just to give it a little bit more texture as well. I use this crackle stamp. It's by craftyindividuals.co.uk. One of my favourite stamps, and some Versamark watermark stamp pad. And I just kind of went on like that, and then randomly stamped. Because it's black, you can kind of see where that ink's gone. I'm not bothered about this being perfect. It's just for decoration in the background to give it some texture. Then I use some clear embossing powder. This just happens to be the Wow Super Fine. I have used other ones too. Now, ordinarily, if you're using, you know, if you're doing embossing, an anti-static powder would have been good, so that your powder only sticks to the places on your paper you want it to. I haven't used that because if it sticks somewhere I don't want it to, that'll just add to the texture. It will just add to the grunge. So I don't actually mind. I'm going to get my heat gun nice and hot and get this melted. So this has got some nice shine on it now. And I was also thinking that I might want some of this textured paper on the back. It gives that idea of a spider's web. I use cheesecloth on here, but it wasn't the easiest to get stuck down, to be honest. I think I might actually have it on the black to cover that black bit up, so we just see the black on one side. And another thing I want to think about is the closure, because on this one I actually stuck a piece of card underneath this paper before I stuck the paper down. But as you can see, it's not that strong. And also, I've already stuck this paper down without thinking. So I've got these brads and I'm wondering whether to pop one through and then attach some string on the back and use the string to tie it. That's what I'm thinking. So now I'm just thinking of, I would have to do that first so that I can cover the brad up then with the black and with this white stuff. I'm going to pop my closure somewhere about here. I'm going to take an awl, and this should be 4 inches. So at 2 inches, and to make a hole. I'm only doing this just to help the brad go through. So that's that there. Now, obviously, if you've got a very bulky journal, you might not want anything as bulky as that, so you might have an alternative way of doing it. I like the look of that. Okay, so now I'm just going to put some tape over there to secure it. I'm going to cut off the end. We'll stick this on next, so the easiest way to do this is to pop glue all over the back. I'm going to use Collal. It's a really strong construction glue. And then you want it right up into that crease. Then when you're happy, you can press that down and just keep it there for a minute until that glue catches. So that's that stuck down. And the next thing you're going to do is put glue all over this bit. Then close and hold. So then it should open up then, and your step should pop up. And then from here, it's just a case of decorating it. I'm going to put my fluffy paper onto mine, and I've also cut out some leaves from some shiny black paper, which I made myself. All I did was put some of the Versamark onto the paper straight from the ink pad, covered it in clear embossing powder, and then cut some leaves. These I already had made from a Spell Binders kit, which I think I might put on the front, although I'm not so sure. I could also use here, but what I probably will do is blacken them up. And I'm also wanting to distress my image as well, so I'll lightly use one of these and go around the edge, and I'll probably do some inking in some black soot. I will speed this up a little bit because it'll just be me now kind of figuring out where I want things to go. And then when it's time to stick our images in, or if there's anything that I feel I want to explain a little bit more, I'll get back to you. So I will see you in a bit. Okay, so I am finished sticking all my leaves round. So you will have just seen on the time lapse me sticking the plants in the background. I used some foam tape on some of them to prop them up, give them some dimension. I also went ahead and put some flowers on the front of the image and also behind. Again, just to give it some dimension when we open it up, I went ahead and backed the image just so it looks neat from the back, because obviously with sticking the flowers down, I had tape and all sorts going on. So I did that, and I also added some Nouveau Crystal Glaze, which is essentially glossy, a bit like glossy accents to the berries, for two reasons. One, I had cut the berries from a matte black, so it matches the shine, and also because I've got them hanging off the edge, I just thought it would strengthen them a little bit. The last thing to do now in terms of the inside is to stick our image into here. So it's going to be a case of just sticking our image onto this part, the front part of the step. I've decided to actually stick my sentiment just on the bottom there, rather than having it 3D and pop up like I did here. If I was going to have it popping up, this is what I would do. I would make myself another box in the same way as I showed you earlier and stick it onto my step. Then my sentiment would stick onto there like that. I also did do an experiment because I actually said to stick the bottom down and the back, but actually if you only stick the back and leave the bottom, you get a lot more movement. So if you've got the bottom stuck, you're going to be restricted. You can only go so way. If you don't have it stuck, you can bend it back a little bit further, which is I think what the problem was on here. Now this is actually unstuck itself as I've been messing about with it, but you'll see if that was stuck down at the bottom, I could only get it that far. Just by sticking the back, it frees it up and I can lift it, and this is still stuck on and pops up. So again, it's up to you. If you want it to only have restricted movement, you know, great, stick it down at the bottom. So this is just giving you another option, something that I tried and worked well. So yeah, if you want to have that freedom of movement, just stick the back bit down, okay? And then stick your sentiment onto there. Or whatever it is. It could be another picture, you know, whatever it is you want to use. Then you would stick it onto there like that. I accidentally cut the bottom off, but thankfully I kept the bottom so I can stick that back down as well. Another thing I wanted to mention was that when I was putting this together, I had my image like that, and I was making sure that either side my plants or whatever, you know, my leaves fitted within this section. What I didn't think about was, once it folded down, the leaves sticking out the top. Because I had room here, I forgot that the step will push it further this way. So I now have leaves stuck out of the cover. There's a couple of things I could do. I could take them off, which I don't want to do because I like the look of them. Or I could just leave them like that, which is what I'm going to do. And I can also integrate them a little bit into the front of here by having perhaps some more leaves or branches hanging off. So it just all kind of looks like one. So I'm now going to stick this on. I'm going to use tape because then I'm not going to be having to wait for it to dry. Glue, I would say, is probably better, but that's a little bit more tricky when you're filming. I just want to add as well that if you've got anything very close to this edge, just leave yourself a little gap so that it will still be able to fold down nicely. Otherwise, your bottom of whatever you've stuck is going to get trapped. So I have found some black elastic, and for the closure I'm thinking some kind of loop situation. So a loop that just goes around there, that comes and sticks at the back. And all I'm going to do to secure that is put some tape. If I'm keeping it as a pocket, I won't bother covering the tape. If I'm having it floating, then I'll just put something decorative over it, or I'll just leave it. So that's the idea for there, and then that will just unloop from there. And then if I wanted to hang a charm or anything, I've still got that option. Where the leaves are falling off, I was thinking of adding some detail and everything, but then I found this, and I just like the simplicity of that. And I felt like when I put the leaves on, it was a little bit crowded and maybe unnecessary. So I actually think I'm just going to keep it nice and simple like that and not bother that the leaves are hanging out. And all I will do is when it's on my page, I'll just put it up a little bit higher if I decide to use it as a pocket. And then nothing's affected them. So I'm going to use a little bit of red line tape. It's nice and strong. I'm going to make a loop, pop it over, and then I'm going to pull it reasonably tight. Okay, so that's where my tape's going to need to be. And then I'm going to secure it with some magic Scotch tape. So this is kind of like an invisible tape. I'm going to use my ink cube again, just to go around here. I've got a strip of that fluffy paper, which I thought I could use underneath. And then I thought I could balance out the leaf here with the leaves over here. So I think I'm happy with that. I'm going to get that all stuck down. And I think that's my pocket finished. So let's have a look at the inside. That's the front, open the loop, and then we lift it up to reveal our pop-up on the inside. And then looking back to it in a journal, we could have it on a page like that or off to one side. And we can then use it as a pocket. And then we have the interactive elements, that little elements of surprise when we open it up. And that's it from me today. And thank you very much for joining me. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Perhaps leave a comment if you have the time. And don't forget to make sure you have pressed the notification bell so that you are notified when I upload another video.